Senator, great to see you. We know that you are there for an important vote today, and we'll get to that in a moment about North Korea. But first, we want to ask you about this race. Now, Donald Trump has come out in the wake of his big win in New Hampshire and said this, as he said before, is a movement. And members of the press are now saying that he may be unstoppable in his path to the nomination. Your reaction to that?
Well, listen, last night we had a fantastic victory, and it is the second week in a row that the voters defied the media pundits. You know, 2 weeks ago, all the pundits on TV, on every show, were saying there was no way we could win in Iowa. They were saying it was impossible that Trump was going to win in Iowa, that he was unstoppable in Iowa. And then we saw the biggest turnout in the history of the Iowa Republican caucuses, and we won an incredible victory in Iowa. We won across the board. We won among evangelicals. We won among conservatives. We won among Reagan Democrats. We even won among young people. It was an incredible victory in Iowa. The next week, everyone in the media said, okay, fine, Cruz won in Iowa, but there's no way a conservative can do well in New Hampshire. New Hampshire, it's a moderate New England state. Conservatives, you cannot get support there. Last night, we astonished all the pundits again by finishing with a strong third-place finish and unifying the conservative movement. And now we're headed to South Carolina, to Nevada, to the Super Tuesday SEC primary. And I think at this point it is becoming more and more a two-man race between me and Donald Trump. And what we're seeing is conservatives uniting behind our campaign. And if conservatives continue to unite, we're going to win the nomination. And that's also how we win the general.
Donald Trump, however, won last night with conservatives, even in New Hampshire. He won with moderates and he won with conservatives. He won with every demographic group, the old, the young, the college-educated, the uncollege-educated, men, women. Why?
Oh, look, Donald had a good night last night. Now, New Hampshire is a good state for a liberal Republican. New Hampshire is a good state for a Republican like Donald Trump, who spent the first 60 years of his life describing himself as very, very pro-choice, supporting partial birth abortion. New Hampshire is a good state for a Republican like that. You know, Donald Trump is someone also who emphatically supported Barack Obama's TARP bailout of Wall Street, emphatically supported Obama's stimulus plan. And on health care, Donald Trump is calling for the same socialized medicine that Bernie Sanders is. Both of them are saying expand Obamacare to put the federal government in charge of every one of our health care, which will inevitably lead to rationing of care and seniors being denied needed care. Those views resonate pretty well with a moderate to liberal audience. I'll tell you, in the state of South Carolina, I don't think people are interested in someone, a Republican candidate who's pushed partial birth abortion, who won't defend marriage, and who supports big government bailouts. I think they're looking for a strong and principled constitutional conservative, and that's why our support continues to surge as we're seeing that old Reagan coalition coming together. We're seeing conservatives and evangelicals and libertarians and young people and Reagan Democrats uniting, and that's what it's going to take to win.
Now, he says that bit about the Obamacare line is not true, that he doesn't support that. He used to be in favor of single-payer health care. He did tell 60 Minutes in September that he's going to, quote, take care of everyone health care-wise, and that the government's going to pay for it. But to your latter point, he is leading in the Real Clear Politics average of all polls by 16 points there. You're in second place. Now, those polls they haven't been redone since Iowa. But why do you think, given what you just said, he's been doing so well in the polls there?
Well, Megan, let's be clear on health care. Even now as a candidate, Donald says we need to have full-on socialized medicine. In the Republican debates, he stood up and said we ought to have socialized medicine like Canada and Scotland. And at the very last debate, he said if you, a Republican voter, don't support socialized medicine, then you are heartless. Then you want to let people die in the streets. You know what? We hear that kind of rhetoric all the time from Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. I don't think Republican voters are interested in a Republican candidate saying they're heartless if they don't want the government taking over medicine. And so there's a real choice on health care. If you want to see Bernie Sanders-style socialized medicine, Donald Trump is your guy. In his own words, he describes himself as very, very liberal on health care. On the other hand, if you want to repeal every word of Obamacare, that's what I will do if I'm elected president. And instead, will pass common sense health care reform that makes health insurance personal and portable and affordable and keeps government from getting between us and our doctors. I think that's what the American people want.
Let's talk about Marco Rubio, who now is admitting that he had a bad debate performance last Saturday night. Now some people are saying, notwithstanding what they were calling Marco-mentum, saying he's out. Do you believe it's over for him?
Oh, listen, I don't know. Marco is a good guy. He's a friend. He had a tough night on Saturday night, and obviously the results in New Hampshire were not what he had hoped for. We'll see what's happening. You know, his super PAC continues to run attack ads hitting us, and they've still got some money, so we'll see what they do. You know, what I think the race is going to come down to, it is simply going to be who do the voters trust. You know, we have been burned, Megyn, over and over again. We keep winning elections, and the people who we elect don't do what they want. And I don't think the conservatives in South Carolina want to nominate another deal maker, someone who's going to go and cut deals with Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and Barack Obama, someone who's going to surrender and capitulate and give in on our principles. I think what we're looking for is a consistent conservative, someone who will stand for the Constitution and Bill of Rights, someone who will stand with the working men and women of this country. And I think that's why we've now to date had over 800,000 contributions, folks going online to tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. It's a grassroots movement with over 200,000 volunteers, and it's coming from we the people who are fed up with the bipartisan corruption of Washington.
The Cruz ground game has received nothing but praise and is getting the same feedback for the states coming up, including South Carolina. You're well positioned there. The question is, what do your competitors' ground games look like? I want to shift gears with you because there is big news today. A shocking video released by Iranian state TV. This is an issue that you've mentioned in the debates that really shocked you. This how our sailors were treated by the Iranians. And here's an American sailor crying while in the custody of the Iranians. The Iranians released this today. And just to refresh the viewers, this is what our Secretary of State John Kerry said about the treatment of our sailors, including this one. Listen.
I also want to thank the Iranian authorities for their cooperation and quick response. All indications suggest or tell us that our sailors were well taken care of, and that is a testament to the critical role that diplomacy plays in keeping our country safe, secure, and strong.
He thanked them, Senator. He thanked them.
Look, it is disgraceful and it defies words. Only Barack Obama and John Kerry would thank Iran for capturing and trying to humiliate American sailors. That image of our sailors on their knees will come to encapsulate the failures of the Obama-Clinton foreign policy. It is the direct result of weakness. Yes.
Now they're trying to humiliate them and the country further, apparently, after they get the benefits of this deal.
This is what happens when you have a commander-in-chief who's utterly spineless. Look, in the middle of this nuclear negotiations, the Ayatollah Khamenei attended a rally where they burned American flags, they burned Israeli flags, and chanted death to America. And Obama and Kerry did nothing. You know, not too many days ago, an Iranian drone buzzed the USS Harry Truman. That we should have shot down that drone. This weakness is unacceptable. It invites more aggressiveness, more threats from Iran and our enemies like North Korea. And I'll tell you this, Megyn, as I campaign across South Carolina and across the country, every day I encounter members of our military who say they cannot wait to have a commander-in-chief who will stand with them. And I want to take a minute on your show just to speak to every serviceman and woman, every soldier and sailor and airman and Marine and Coast Guardsman who has had a commander-in-chief who doesn't stand with you, who doesn't believe in your mission, who doesn't back you up, who puts you into combat with rules of engagement that tie your arms behind your back. It is disgraceful, it is wrong, and you have my commitment. It will end. On January 20th, 2017, you're going to have a president who has your back.
Obviously, the Obama administration feels good about the Iranian deal, but that tape humiliating our soldiers is something.
Yes.
I want to ask you, before I let you go, about North Korea. You've returned, you've left the campaign trail, you've gone back to Washington. There was an important vote on North Korea and increasing sanctions on it today because it just doesn't seem to care. Just doesn't seem to care about our attempts to rein in its nuclear program.
Well, unfortunately, President Obama is using the same weakness and appeasement with North Korea that he's using to Iran and to ISIS and to all of our enemies. You know, the president describes his philosophy as, quote, strategic patience. Well, strategic patience, like leading from behind, has been a manifest disaster. I think the president needs to immediately reimpose sanctions on North Korea. He needs to pressure China. Stop protecting China. China is the patron of North Korea. We need to install THAAD anti-ballistic missile batteries in South Korea to knock down these missiles, and we need to list North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism again. You know, one of the amazing things, Megan, this missile launch from North Korea launched a satellite into space. It's circling the Earth every 94 minutes. That satellite crossed directly above Levi Stadium, where the Super Bowl was held, minutes after the Super Bowl ended. If that satellite has in it a nuclear weapon, if they had detonated a nuclear weapon above the Super Bowl, it could have done catastrophic damage. And the Obama administration has done utterly nothing to keep this country safe. It is dangerous. It's unacceptable. And Megan, I think this is the single most important issue in the 2016 election, is that the voters are looking for who has the experience and the knowledge and the judgment to keep this country safe. And as Commander-in-Chief, that will be my highest priority, is keeping America safe.
Senator Ted Cruz, thanks for being here.